Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Viknopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, thank you. So those were the mantras for an auspicious beginning. They're also from the Vedas. So the reason why we've gathered here is basically to send a message from the Vedas to tell you what the Vedas, or the at least the last portion of the Veda, tells us, which I feel is really important because nowadays we're all, searchers, we're all seekers for the truth, and which is really good. We at least now know what we're searching for. But Vedas are there actually to tell us what to look for, or even better, that we don't have to look at all. We are it. We are that truth, that fullness, that limitlessness that we've been searching for all of our life. Okay. So that that like needs a little pause, like it needs a little second to sink in, to understand what that means. Because as we are growing up, we're having all these notions of our identity. Like since you're a little child, you are constantly taught who you are and what you are supposed to be like, and what are the values of the society that you're growing up that you need to adapt to and imitate. So those are all the factors that basically shape us into a personality, into an identity, which is fine, which is, it has its purpose. It's like an ego identity. But after a while, it becomes a little bit tight for a person. When you're little, you're kind of having fun with it. You're exploring your identity, but through play. You're kind of playing dress up. I remember when I was a kid, I loved playing dress up, like doing makeup and wearing heels and being like, imitating my mom, basically. So it's kind of fun in the beginning when you're little and you don't take it so seriously. You don't get so attached to it. But as you're growing up, uh, those things become more of who you are and less of a play. You're no longer playing in that role. You have kind of become that role. You think that that's what you are, like you are a role of a housewife or a wife or someone's sister or someone's colleague or someone's employee or someone's boss. Those are all the roles that we're not kind of playing like children. We are really into them, because that's what we think we are. All these roles that we fulfill in this body with this mind and these senses. So after a while, those roles become limiting. You kind of want to play other roles, but the society is not really letting you, or you're not letting yourself, because if you do what you don't think you're supposed to, what your ego, or what Freud called, the super ego, what you kind of absorb from the environment, what you're supposed to do in order to earn someone's respect or someone's, good job, you're doing well, or for someone to think that you're successful, so all these things are an impediment to us expressing ourselves more fully. Okay, so Vedas are, or actually, the Vedas come from a verb vid, which means to see. sorry. In Serbian, it means to see. In English, it means to know. Okay. So Veda are the body of knowledge that tell us how to live basically this or what this life is. They're kind of a manual and instruction to how to live this life. Because when you're born and when you grow up in the society, you're not really taught these things, and you get some these notions that we were just talking about, some roles that you identify with, and you kind of lose yourself, you lose the sense of who you really are in the process. And that's why when you're growing up, well, even when you're a kid, but mostly when you're grown up, all your pursuits or your searches in life are to find yourself, to find yourself beyond these roles, to let loose, to lose yourself. So that's why drugs are very popular. That's why cinema, all forms of entertainment are really popular, because we constantly want to lose this sense of a limited personality, this ego identity that we have, which is too tight for us because we feel we're so much more than that. Okay. So Vedas are there to body of knowledge that tell us also that we are right. We are not this ego identity that we identify with. We are actually this consciousness that is this whole universe, only through different shapes. They call it in Sanskrit nama rupa, which means name and form. What we see, or all of our experiences, whether it's during wake or sleep or deep sleep, it's constant. Uh, it's just consciousness in different states, and it's consciousness what you're perceiving and the one that perceives. Okay, so there is nothing outside of it. There's nothing outside of consciousness. So everything that we perceive, including our mind, body, senses, is the same I, the same, how do they call it? The same light that embodies, that gives life, that gives consciousness to this body and this mind. It is that they call it in Sanskrit Brahma. It's that consciousness, that supreme consciousness that is this whole universe. And that includes this, what you identify with, okay, your body, mind, and senses. So the whole teaching of the Vedas, so the Vedas can be divided into, this is very, 101 Vedas for beginners, but why not? So they are divided into two sections. Like I said, they are in structure and they're kind of manual for how to live this life, or to give you some knowledge of where you are in the universe, or what is the universe. So one portion is, they call it karma kanda, which means the section that deals with karma, with actions. And that means that for any desire that you may have, because we know human being, because it's constantly searching for himself or herself to get out of his own prison of mind and ego identity, um, he's constantly searching for more. He's constantly searching for happiness, which is himself. So he's constantly searching himself from in different endeavors, through different endeavors. So karma kanda is that portion of the Vedas that deals with the wishes, all these wishes that human being has, and how to fulfill them. So they give you a mantra, or a certain puja ritual, or some tapas, or some things that you have to do in order to achieve that goal, and you have to kind of follow it strictly in a way. So that is the first portion. That's the magic part portion. And then the other part is, we've all heard about Vedanta or Upanishads. Anta means the end, and Veda, yeah, the last section of the Vedas. And they're also called Upanishads because they're short stories usually between the teacher and the student, or in some, there are different Upanishads where the husband and wife have a dialogue of the teaching, or in Katha Upanishad, death and a little boy have a conversation about the nature of the self. So yes, this last portion of the Veda talk about Vedanta, talk about the nature of the self. They're the philosophy, or more literally, they are the mirror that is held up to you so that you can see yourself. Because as a subject, all that you're experiencing are these forms of yourself, you know, but you never experience the observer. So the Vedas tell you, you are the observer. You know, you are this consciousness that is witnessing this play. Not only that, Vedas also tell us that not only are you this consciousness that is witnessing this life unfolding, in this drama of life unfolding in front of you, and you being participant of it, but also that whatever you perceive, whatever you get in touch with, is also you, is also that same consciousness. It is that same Brahman, you know, but just in different form. You just, it's an illusion, you know. It's kind of like a, um, you know, like they give different examples. Like a wave is an illusion of something different from being a water, you know. So they give an example that if a wave in the ocean would have human consciousness, he may be afraid, thinking that he's an individual being and rushing into these rocks, you know, he may be destroyed, you know, so he may be afraid of death and whatnot. So we are like that. We're that wave in the ocean that is afraid of that, but in the essence, nothing happens to consciousness ever. It's just constantly changing forms. So we are like that. We are that water, that ocean, basically, not just the wave. The wave is the instrument of experiencing this play, but it is not, we are not just this instrument, which is why we are suffering. And that is why in all our endeavors, we are looking for that, for liberation, you know. That's why we call it, we want liberation, you know, because this is too tight. We have identified with too little, so we want to expand. So Vedas tell us that through a new orientation, through knowledge about yourself, you get a new perspective, that way you are no longer seeing this world as something different from yourself, as something different from the source, from Brahman, you know. Uh, but you actually see yourself in all of it. You are all of it. And once that happens, when you get that cognitive change, you are freed, because you're no longer slave to just this mind, body, and senses consciousness. You're expanding yourself. And that's why we have examples of people who have liberated themselves, in the sense that they have expanded themselves, or rather found out, discovered through knowledge, through cognitive change, that they are everything, that everything there is that one consciousness. You can call it Brahman, you can call it Ishvara, you can call it God. There's so many names for it. But all that there is here is that we are constantly experiencing, and that is our being, and that is only one consciousness in all these forms that we perceive. So that is why once that sinks in, the liberated persons have that enormous empathy, which makes us so drawn to them. You know, we feel that ananda, we feel that limitless love that they are feeling as well, because they're not separating themselves with their ego identity from you, me, or anyone else, any being. And that's why it's natural, once you have that cognitive change, that all the values that, you know, the dharmas or the moral conducts that a person has, they kind of naturally fall into place, because you act from from knowing and from feeling. And once you do that, you cannot go wrong. All your actions will be very well. The more clarity you have, the more your actions will be more, how do you call it, ahimsa. Your actions will be less hurtful, or you will tend to uh, do least possible hurt. Try not to hurt no being. Try to be as careful as possible not to hurt anyone with your thought, with your deed, with your actions. Mm, or even by supporting something being done badly to another being. So in that way, it's much easier to live because you're no longer confused. You're no longer confused what you need to do. You're no longer confused, should I go this way, or what is better for me? Or this guy's offering more money, this guy's, it's like there's no confusion anymore. You think and you feel coherently, and you can act as a creator of this world, doing good to it. And that is liberation, that you were just an instrument of God, of Brahman, of Ishvara, to kind of make sure that this dream of Ishvara doesn't go maybe too long, too deep into destruction, because you feel for all the beings that are suffering, because beings do suffer because they don't know that they are Brahman, and that is why they suffer all the time. So you empathize and you act in such a way that you contribute to more happiness, to more goodness to the world. And that's why Vedas are so profound and so valuable, and they persist to amaze everyone who comes in contact with them. Okay. Questions about this so far?
I don't have any question yet. Everything was quite clear.
Okay, great.
I have one question about this unhurting anybody. Is it including yourself or just another's?
Okay, yes, it's exactly like that. You should not hurt yourself. Yes, if you are doing something that you're hurting yourself, that's also himsa. So you should not hurt yourself. However, I think hurting vanity is allowed. Okay, because vanity is not, like, when you hurt vanity, it's not really a real feeling. It's more like a pretend feeling that someone is having because he has adapted to that personality. So I think if you hurt some vanity, you're doing good. So I don't think hurting vanity is himsa. But everything else that is real hurting, like really hurting the person, belittling them, or anyway, uh, is definitely himsa. Yeah, no, don't do it.
Very interesting, that thing about the vanity. So would you consider like attacking an ego like correct, because it would be vanity?
Yeah, ego is the one that is defending. So you don't have to attack them. You don't have to do anything. They will feel attacked. They will feel like they are hurt because they recognize themselves in the talk. So it should be a good thing once that happens. It's like an internal reaction for to look deeper into yourself, what you're actually afraid to look into, what you're hiding from yourself, and what you're actually being offended about. What am I or whoever is saying that is offending you, and find out whether that's true. If it's not true, you don't have a problem. If it's true, you also don't have a problem, because you should not lie to yourself. That's another thing, is that you should not lie to yourself. You should always be in satyam, in the truth, because if you start lying to yourself, that's like lying to others. You're conflicting yourself all the time, so you cannot be at peace. So yes, if it hurts your vanity, if it hurts your ego personality, accept it. Yes, I am that kind of an asshole. That's fine. I am at the time, so you need to accept that. because lying about it, you just don't see it. You're just delaying your growth. So hurting vanity in teaching purposes is actually really, really good. But that's the only himsa that I think we're allowed to do.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. More questions. This is really good because I don't think I would have talked about this. Going back to Vedas.
So
Okay.
to access the Veda and to look for my specific Veda, if I understood it correctly, how can I do it?
Oh, you want to learn what the Vedas are telling you, yes?
Sure.
Okay. Well, it's that's why we're here. Okay. That's why we're gathered. To learn what the Vedas are telling you, you do need to have a teacher. Okay. And the teacher needed to have a teacher before him, and that teacher needed to have a teacher before him and or her, and so forth. And that teacher should know what they're talking about, in the sense that they should not be a fake telling you, oh, all is Brahman, I am, we're all eternal love, happiness, and whatnot, but then still be totally in ego consciousness. Yes. So the guru that you're looking for should be, as they call it in tradition, Brahmanishta. Okay. Brahmanishta means that you are firmly in Brahman. You are firmly in the knowledge that you and everything else is that consciousness. And that you know that and act from that. What I was just saying just a few minutes ago. So basically, he needs to be, or she needs to be Brahmanishta, to be firm in that knowledge, and also needs to be, they call it Shrotriya. Shrotriya means learned in the Vedas, or learned in the language in which the Vedas are spoken, because Vedanta is the methodology of teaching how that can be that you are, that you are Brahman, that all that there is here is Brahman. It's like a methodology from, you go from orientation that I am this limited, mind, body, and senses, ego, personality, identity being, to I am everything. For that, mm, uh, Vedanta has 3 steps. First step is, they call it Shravanam, which means listening to the words of the Shastra, of the Vedas. Yeah. You need to listen, or you need to hear about this a lot in order for your consciousness to take it in as a possibility at first. Okay, maybe there's some truth to it. I could be Brahman. Let's look into that. So you need to kind of hear it over and over and over and over again, so that all the pieces of how that is possible, that all that is here is one consciousness. When I constantly see divisions and conflicts and all this drama and all this play, it doesn't seem like it's one consciousness, or it doesn't seem like it's like a good consciousness, a good God, so you're really confused in the beginning. So you need to have lots of shravanam to hear how all that is here is that one consciousness in all the forms that we perceive. And number 2 is, because of all these doubts that you're having, you need to have mananam, which means that you have to think about these things. How is that possible? Or how am I Brahman? How is that possible? Like, think about the teaching and resolve all the doubts that you have, because you have to, once you hear it, for it to settle in, you need to resolve all the doubts that you have in order to actually get the knowledge, or to actually remove all the false knowledge about yourself that you're having. And last one is nididhyasana, which basically means meditation. Yeah, you are meditating about the fact that you are Brahman. So one of the sentences that are used, or the mahavakyas that are used, are, for example, aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi, which means I am Brahman, or yeah, or soham, or many that basically mean the same. I am he, I am Brahman. Basically, you are thinking about that. Similar to, it's basically the same thing to listening and resolving the doubts, but in a meditative state of mind, not like this very active where you're thinking about it, we're talking about it, all the senses are included. No, it's a meditation. We're gonna have actually one next week. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can make an English and Serbian group one after another. It's really good, yeah, but you need to be somewhere in a secluded place. So with these three, listening, resolving the doubts, thinking about the teaching, and meditating about the teaching, or meditating about these mahavakyas, the great sayings in the Vedas that tell you who you are, that you are Brahman, you are this consciousness of this whole world. So with those three steps, Vedanta kind of ensures, with the proper guru, with the proper teacher who is Brahmanishta, who is firm in the knowledge of the self, that he is Brahman, she is Brahman, everyone is Brahman, and acts from that knowledge, is Nishta. Yeah, he's firm in that. And he's also Shrotriya, which means he's learned the methodology of teaching. So that's why it is a methodology that you need to know the language, you need to know Sanskrit in order to read what the actual scriptures are saying, and then give them the vision of the Vedas, of the unity through the words of Vedanta, because Vedanta is constantly telling you that, and you need to show the students how that can be through various facets of their life, because like I said, we all have these identities, we have all these different roles, different things that we do in life, so that they kind of pull us in, and we get distracted, and we don't see that that watcher, that observer, that Brahman that is always there, which is our nature. And once we just recognize that, we come back to ourselves, come back to our source, then everything else that is there to pull us out won't pull us as much, because the mirage, or the illusion of that there's someone else under the blanket, like there's someone behind the form that is not me, or someone that is frightening, or someone that is very different from what I am, is it kind of falls apart. You see everyone as an extension in yourself, and so clearly and so empathically from your heart that there's no mistake. So if you have a guru like that, and if he is Brahmanishta and is learned in the scriptures, Shrotriya, and you go through the teaching, you listening to the words of the Shastra, of the Vedas, and you think about them and you meditate on them. We don't know the period of time when the clarity comes, but it comes after the teaching, after listening. You do earn a lot of grace, and after a while, it just sinks in. Yes, and then it just really becomes, for someone it takes longer. Some people need to hear it, 10 years maybe to listen to Vedanta. Some people maybe need to listen 10 days, and they know, oh, it's so clear. Now I get it.
Or 10
So,
lifetimes.
oh, 10 lifetime. It really depends. It's like we're all one consciousness, but we're so different, because we are different expressions of this consciousness. We have different amalgams of traits that make us unique and different, and that's why we have to go through our own paths, through our own karma, as they call it, to reap the results of our actions. if they are done in ignorance, in wish to not expand yourself, like from consciousness, from love consciousness, but more from ego consciousness, then you're hurting other beings. If you're hurting other beings in the process, then you're collecting what they call bad karma. Okay, so karma, the results of actions basically depend whether you're doing harm or not harm, good to other beings. So in that process, in constant interaction with other beings, we're constantly either hurting or helping, someone. So that hurting accumulates in the form of, like a bad karma, we call it papa, So you experience some bad experiences, consequences in the future, as opposed to, when you're doing something that's actually beneficial to other beings, then you have more space. You actually can enjoy more life. You have more good things, that await for you. So yes, it's good to yeah, you should always, whatever you do, just follow that principle of ahimsa. That's why the Vedas are, I think, the only teaching they give that instruction, in the sense that you are everyone, and basically, just like you don't want to get hurt, you shouldn't hurt. That same applies for them. They don't want to get hurt either. So, be respectful. So that's a very big teaching, and we can dedicate our whole life just trying to succeed in that life of least hurt. Trying to live to not hurt